Surprise, surprise, the $245 million that the state of Florida has wasted on that concentration camp in the Everglades that they mockingly call Alligator Alcatraz seems to have been wasted, as a federal judge has not only stopped them from accepting new immigrants, but ordered it to be emptied and all operations stopped immediately.
What's really funny to me about this story is that after the judge's ruling came out and said, you have 60 days, I believe it is, clear it out, be done with it because you violated so many different state laws and national laws to put this up. A Florida official working with DeSantis came out and said, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep doing this. What are you talking about? We're not going to listen to the judge. And by the next day, they had already started dismantling it. So they talked a tough game. They were like, we're not backing down, and then immediately back down. So that, to me, just kind of shows you what happens when you stand up to the bullies, which is what this court case did. And of course, it was brought by native tribes here in Florida, other environmental groups, because basically, if you do any project anywhere in the United States that involves federal funding, you have to go through steps A through Z in terms of, environmental reviews, and not just, is the concrete going to mess with the water? We're talking about things like how the lighting, the interior lighting, how does that affect the outdoor wildlife? What does that do to the, overall environment? And you have to study this. You have to look into it. You have to show us these documents that you did all of this. And that's just one small example. And they didn't do any of it. They built it in 8 days after they got that FEMA money, which could have been spent doing anything else on the planet, but they spent it to build a concentration camp that is now being shut down.
Well, and it flooded within a day of opening as well, because you shouldn't build in the Everglades for a myriad of reasons, not the least of which it is a giant swamp that you should not build in. And so this money is wasted. I mean, millions and millions of dollars. I mean, there's $21 million to the company who was going to make the wristbands and oversee the wristband policy. I mean, a lot of these companies are big donors of the DeSantis administration. This was a political boon for him. This is how he sees himself, I believe, launching another failed presidential campaign. And this caught on, these little sing-songy kind of mocking names of these concentration camps. They've named them throughout the United States as other Republican-led governors have tried to mirror this. But it turns out it's a boondoggle and you can't do it, right? Not only for the environmental concerns, which we addressed, but the humanity of this is despicable, and I don't want that to be lost in this. Is that you're locking human beings up in the middle of, and they made it this way on purpose, right? The suffering was a feature, not a flaw. And the inefficiency of it.
Right, and there's been reports from the actual inmates that have been held there being served food that has maggots in it, being served expired foods that were rotten, having no bathrooms, no personal space. All their personal belongings, including Bibles that they had, were confiscated. They're being sleep deprived. Some have described it as torture. They have described beatings, and they did that as recently as I think 3 days ago on a call-in radio show. They were able to make a phone call to try to do this, plea for help. So it has been a concentration camp. It has been horrific treatment of these individuals. And look, most of the work hadn't been done. DeSantis could easily tell these massive donors of his, hey, don't cash that check. We don't need the work. He's not going to do that. He's going to let them keep this money that they now get for free. They don't even have to buy the materials, so they make even more profit off of it and leave Florida even more vulnerable next time a natural disaster hits, because those, again, were FEMA funds. And overall, this whole debacle just shows how disgusting you are in the Republican Party, because they were posing. They put a big Alligator Alcatraz sign out there. You would have these MAGA freaks driving along the interstate, stop their cars, get out and take a picture with the sign, Alligator Alcatraz. And it's just, I don't know. There's words I could say, but I don't want to get canceled today. So horrible human beings is all I'm going to say.
Well, and the courts are always slow. That's by design. The courts are deliberative, and they have been slow to react to this onslaught that the Trump administration has done. But not only is Alligator Alcatraz being shut down by the federal judge, we're also seeing just over the weekend, there were the Guatemalan children that were going to be deported to Guatemala because their parents weren't here. The judge they're getting wise to the Trump administration, how they're operating, immediately stopped them, took the children off the plane for an emergency review. And that is what's going to happen to this administration. The judges have caught wise to what's happening. They're issuing injunctive orders immediately and more aggressively, and they're being held up by the appellate courts. Again, it takes a while to get there, but I believe that the courts are finally catching up to what this administration is doing as this percolates through, and we're going to see a huge pause on a lot of this stuff that, quite frankly, is blatantly illegal. It just took a while to get in front of the right pair of eyes.